when she was so ill and in the hospital bed, I was finally able to cook those recipes and have her taste test them from her hospital bed. And I wrote them all down, and that's how I was finally able to perfect them. So it was such a gift for me to be able to do that with her. And that's how we said goodbye to each other.
Hello, you're listening to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa here on 1-2 Radio. We are changing the way we manifest in the world. It's Wonderful Wednesday. It's chilly today. It was in the 40s last night. And, if you guys listen to me, you know that I'm in Florida. So we got an alert yesterday to watch out for falling iguanas. I'm not lying. It's a true story. The iguanas can't handle it because they're cold-blooded if it gets below 50 degrees. So what happens is they'll fall from the trees, and usually they'll not die, which is good. If the weather stays that way, then they'll eventually die, and that's what's happened in the past. It sort of keeps the population down, but we haven't had a cold front in years, so we have iguanas everywhere. So there's all these alerts about falling iguanas. So don't walk on any, if you're in Florida, don't walk on any trees. You may get it. It's usually coconuts, but now it's iguanas. But anyway, I just want to thank you guys for joining me, whether you're here live or you're listening to the archives. I am very grateful that you take the time to come to my show and listen. And I have a great guest today who many of you know and remember, Diana Silverhead from Molé Mama, who used to have her own radio show here on 1-2 Radio, and many of you know who she is. And I'm going to bring her out in a minute, and we're going to catch up on some of the amazing things she's been doing since she left. And as a reminder for those of you who don't know, those of you who know and don't know, this is a little reminder, we do have a private Facebook chat, and you can join us by going over to 12radio.com. And on the left menu bar, you'll see the chat button. If you click there, you'll get redirected to our 1-2 Radio Facebook group. And my wonderful producer, Scott, will let you in. Thank you, Scott, for producing my show. I just want to give you guys a couple of updates that's going on with me. If you did purchase my book, thank you. I had my book signing 2 weeks ago, and it went wonderfully. If I could kindly ask that you leave me a review, that would be so wonderful. The more reviews I have, obviously, the better. And you can leave me a review on Amazon or on Goodreads if you're on Goodreads. And also, I'm trying to get more and more people to come to my website and sign up for my newsletter. So if you would go to postcardstotheuniverse.com and go to the How It Works and sign up for the newsletter, I can share with you some exciting things that I'm going to be doing in 2020. And I'll be offering some courses, some online courses. So I'm in the process of figuring out how to put those together so they could be real fun and creative. And I have a free little gift for those who do sign up. Every week, you guys know I do a Magic Monday message, and this week's Magic Monday message, the affirmation is say yes, and it's from a contributor, Jenny, who is in my book, and everything aligned exactly it was meant to, and it manifested for her in physical form, and she got a free trip to Mexico. So that's what her story is about. So make a postcard and send them to me and share your story with me, and maybe you can be in the next book. So I've been doing these podcasts myself, and actually I was on Molé Mama's podcast, and we'll talk a little bit about that when Diana comes out, and it was really cool. It was so much fun. And I just recorded one yesterday from the Divine Breadcrumb. That's the name of their podcast. It was great. Isn't that a cool name, the Divine Breadcrumb? So that was tons of fun, and I'm really enjoying being on a podcast tour. It's different being the one who gets interviewed, and I like it. I like talking about the book and all that exciting stuff. And I just got booked for a radio show on Saturday on KUHS. It's a streaming radio TV in Denver, Colorado. So that should be fun. I do it through Zoom. So things keep happening. And this opportunity just came to me last night. And in keeping with this week's affirmation, say yes, I just jumped on it and I said yes. So I'm excited about that. So I really have no idea how it's going to if it's live, like it'll be on my Facebook Live, but I'll definitely share it afterwards. I know I'll do that. So speaking of saying yes, let's get to my guest. Molé Mama is a San Diego-based author, home chef, vlogger, and podcaster. Diving into her Latina roots, she uses her magical molcajete and other tools and techniques that make her food taste like grandma used to make back in Mexico. Her book, Molé Mama, a memoir of love, cooking, and loss, shares the stories of how she perfected her beloved mother's recipes. Readers swear that they smell Sonora enchiladas, Spanish rice, mole, and other delicious Mexican foods simmering in their kitchens as they read her book. Molé Mama recipes, YouTube cooking videos, and weekly podcast celebrates family recipes, cooking delicious meals at home, and adding love to every recipe. Along with her guest chefs, Diana explores recipes and traditions from around the world and the stories that keep them alive. Most of her podcasts will make you hungry and make you find yourself dancing in your kitchen to salsa music. Molé Mama is calling everyone to return to their kitchens and to preserve their living and past ancestors' favorite recipes and stories for future generations. We need to try to preserve our cultures and not just let those family recipes disappear forever. The common thread of every cherished family recipe is that they were homemade with love, and that's the real secret ingredient, says Molé Mama. For many home chefs, cooking is the preferred love language, and that's why we cherish their recipes. Their love has the power to transcend an ordinary recipe into magic. And I was privileged enough to spend over a week with Diana over the summer, and I got to eat much of her food, and it was freaking amazing. Oh my God, I'm craving Diana's Mexican food. Welcome, Diana. So excited to have you here with me today.
Hola, Melissa. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here today to be with you.
I'm so excited. Oh my God. She cooked so much when I was there, and it was so good. And we just don't have Mexican food like that around like the way you cook here in Florida. We have great Cuban food, but I haven't found a Mexican place that I'm like, oh, I'm just dying for here.
Well, you have to come visit us.
Again, oh, I'm coming. I'm coming back for sure. So, okay, so why don't you, I mean, many of the people that listen to the show already know who you are because they remember when you had your show, but tell people who are listening for the first time, like what made you create Molé Mama?
So I created Molé Mama because I really value family recipes. And like probably 12 years ago, I had this idea that it'd be great to have a blog, a YouTube channel, etc., all about family recipes. And at the time, I pitched it to a really, really, really large online retailer that I used to work for, who said, no, people won't care about that. And then a few years after that, I pitched it to another really large online company that should have cared about it and said, no, people don't care. And so after my mom died a few years ago, I was like, you know what? I need to just do this on my own. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to create that space for family recipes and multicultural recipes because I think that so many of us, I don't think I'm alone, cherish those recipes that are in our families.
Absolutely.
Right. You have an artichoke dip stuffed artichokes that you love.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh my God. We asked my mother to make it for every special occasion. It's just a family, and I'm learning how to make it so that I can pass that down.
That's awesome.
That's it though. It's that and sauce.
Yeah. And that sauce that you made for us when you were here, I'm glad you know it. That's amazing.
Oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. I did make you sauce. I forgot about that. Yeah. Okay. So tell a little bit, well, before we do, okay, so it's a two-part question. So I always ask, and everybody who listens to me on a regular basis knows what you're working on manifesting at the moment, but that also goes in with my other question is, what is this vision that you have for Molé Mama? So they're sort of like, kind of go hand in hand.
Okay, so right now I'm working on my second book. I'm working on a cookbook. And the reason why the amazing Melissa was here with me for 10 days is she took photos for me of these recipes that are going to be included in my new cookbook. And my gosh, she's, you listen to her on the radio, you've written an amazing book, but this woman is an amazing photographer. And the first time I actually saw how you styled and took pictures of my family's Moley, I started crying because you made it look so beautiful. I had never seen it look like that. It's like magic. It's like, how did she do that? So that's the big thing, is a new book that I'm working on. And then as far as what's the vision for Molé Mama, the vision for Molé Mama, in addition to just my digital properties, my website and a podcast and YouTube channel, is really about connection, and it's about being a cultural bridge. And so it's really about trying to bring people from different cultures together to help us understand one another, because I think we have so much more in common than we do different. And I've traveled a lot with my day job, and I've seen just barriers being broken down because you're sitting at a table and you're all experiencing the same curry or the some other amazing dish, and we forget that we're different. Right. So that's what I'm really about.
Oh, good. And I put in only 3 photos in the Dropbox. So Scott, like when you get a chance, you'll see them, just to add those into our chat room, because that's only a sneak peek. They're not edited, but just a couple of things, because I wanted to talk about your cookbook, which I'm so excited that you're doing. And thank you for asking me to be the photographer. So what are you thinking that you are going to release the cookbook, and how are you going to do that?
So I was thinking that I'm going to self-publish, but the powers that be have told me not to do that. So I'm trying to manifest a publishing deal like you got. So that's what I'm working on. I hope it comes out this year, but I'm open to whenever it gets released. But but I'm trying to get it published this time.
So you're working on a book proposal right now?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So for those of you guys listening, so if you write nonfiction, it's different than fiction. So the publishers want you to put together a book proposal. So basically, and it's not short. We're not talking about like 5 pages. We're talking about like 50 to 60 pages. And you're breaking your book down in what you imagine it's going to look like, which is so kind of cool, because it's like manifesting, right? Because when you make a manifesting postcard, you just kind of have an idea, but you're not quite sure how it's going to show up. And that's what a book proposal is. You're like putting together this packet for manifesting what your book is going to look like. So when do you think you're going to start submitting your book proposal, or that you think that's going to be finished?
It's probably going to happen in the next month or 2.
Yay!
So I'm close. So I'm really close.
Good. I'm just waiting, because I took so many photos for her that I cleaned them up a little bit, before I sent them over, but I didn't really edit. So I'm waiting. I see it every time I open my photo section. I see Molé Mama raw. So I'm waiting for her to tell me, okay, we're going to do this one. And then I can tweak them and edit them and stuff for her and make them like really pop, for the book. So I'm so excited that you're doing that.
Thank you. They're so beautiful. Like, that's been the huge problem for me. It's like, how do I pick? Because there's so many pretty ones. I'm like, and I still haven't picked any, because I'm just like, can we use all of them? No.
Yeah. I know. And it was so cool is that there were so many recipes she wanted in the book. So she had to make the food. And of course we had to eat it. So Sean and I were like basically really happy that week. Because all we did was eat.
It was such a joy to work with you and talk about sisterhood and just support. And, you were just amazing to me.
Oh, and so were you to me. You let me stay extra because we almost had a big hurricane here. Oh, yeah, it's been really, really cool. And to see us both, Diana and I met in a book proposal group like 5 years ago. I think it'll be 6 this spring maybe or summer already.
Oh my goodness.
And we've both like really grown a lot in these last so many years. It's really kind of cool. It's really cool.
It is fantastic. Yes. And I want to talk about your postcards because
Yes.
I'm my story is in your book, which is amazing.
Yes.
You're so beautiful. I'm so happy and proud of you.
Thank you.
And I just want to share with our listeners that so much of that, the first postcard that I made has come true.
I know.
It's amazing. It's all because I made it just when I had the idea for Molé Mama, and I had, having a book and because I didn't have a YouTube channel yet, and all the things, so many of the things. So I just want to say thank you. And your movement, your postcards to the universe, it really works. It works.
Aww. I think so too. Thank you for saying that, though. I appreciate it. Yeah. When Diana sent me her postcard, it had so many of the things on it that hadn't been manifested in physical reality yet. So it was just in her mind's eye and the things and her desires that she wanted. And so much, like, you have a YouTube channel. You talked about being on TV. Your book, you didn't have the book then. It's just like so many other things. You speaking, and you're now doing your podcast, which I want to talk a little bit about that too. So much of that has actually been born into physical form, and that's what manifestation is about. So first of all, for you guys who don't know, you can find her website has all this information. It's Molé, Mole, Mama, MAMA.com. And you can see, and her podcast is listed in there and links to all of her stuff, her book and everything. So check that out. But tell us a little bit about, what made you decide that you wanted to do this podcast, which is really growing. I mean, people are now coming to you, asking you if you will feature them on your podcast. That's pretty big.
Thank you. No, it's been, I started on 1-2 Radio, so very warm place in my heart for it, for 1-2, and gratitude. But I wanted to do a podcast because I wanted to have the opportunity to interview guests from around the world. So that's would give me more flexibility as to when I'm interviewing them. And I'm super excited. I've had now a guest from India. I just did my first guest from Africa last week. So that was a big part of my wanting to connect people from all these different cultures. And so that was one of the reasons for wanting to go the podcast route. And then the other thing that we've done is we've uploaded all my podcasts, or many of them, to YouTube. And we're going to go video very, very soon. In the next week or two, I'm going to actually start doing video recordings of my podcast. So that's where we're headed.
Wait. What do you mean? Like, how's that? So we're gonna see you and you're on a split screen with whoever your guest is. Oh, yes. So it's going to be a video podcast. How cool!
Yeah. So we've been testing out different software to use. Mm-hmm. Different formats. So yeah, that's coming in the next couple of weeks. It's where we're headed. So I'm a little scared, but we're going to go for it.
I think that would be great.
Yeah. And, it's so interesting, Melissa, because my podcast started out, just me, and oh gosh, the amazing listeners that listened to just me for so long. And then people finally agreed to be my guest. And like you said earlier, now it's kind of awesome that I have people coming to me saying, can I be a guest? And it's morphing into this amazing experience where it's primarily women. It's primarily women in the food industry. They've even, they're a home chef, or they've started a food business of some sort. And it's just so amazing to me to listen to their stories and get to hear about their journeys. And one of the things that I realized really recently was that one of the big things that really left a gaping hole in my heart when my mother went to heaven was our conversations about food. That was that was how we communicated. It was like a daily thought. What did you eat? What are you going to eat? What are you making? What's on sale this week? What's at Costco's that's new? And when she was gone, that part of me, and in so many other ways, she was just like, just hurt. And it's so fascinating to me that now my podcast has morphed into similar conversations that I would have with my mom all the time. So it's filling that void, which is such a gift.
I love that. Yeah, because so tell people a little bit about what the book is about, because what she's talking about was her conversations with her mom is a lot about what your book is, your book that's already published out, not the cookbook. The cookbook is not out yet, obviously. So tell them how that idea came to you.
Yeah, so with my book, my mom was given 3 days to live. She ended up living 13 months on hospice. And during that time, that's when I was finally able to perfect her recipes when she was on hospice. Because when we cooked together, she always came behind me and messed with the recipes when I wasn't like adding more, chili pepper to the chili beans. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, they're a different color when I get back to the room. What are you doing? So poor thing, when she was so ill and in the hospital bed, I was finally able to cook those recipes and have her taste test them from her hospital bed. And I wrote them all down, and that's how I was finally able to perfect them. So it was such a gift for me to be able to do that with her. And that's how we said goodbye to each other. And she still was also remarkable to me that even though she was so incredibly ill, she still had lessons to teach me. And one of the biggest lessons that she taught me while she was so incredibly ill is about being content. And it's in my book, but there was my niece was pregnant with my mother's first great-granddaughter. My mother was so excited and so trying to stay alive to meet this great-granddaughter of hers. And we had a baby shower for my niece, and after, my mom couldn't go, of course, but after the baby shower, my niece came over and had all the gifts and was sharing with my mom. And I sat in a corner and cried because my mother was so happy. She's, looking at every gift and who made this for you, Mija, and this and that. And I'm sitting here and all I can think about is, you will never see this girl be baptized. You will never see her play soccer. You will never see her anything. But my mother had the capacity to stay in the moment and to be joyful.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I know. The book is pretty amazing, and you'll definitely tear up when you're reading it. That's for sure. I got it as soon as it came out, and I was like, oh my God. And I think I read it in 2 days. I'm a fast reader anyway, but I was just so engrossed because I thought it was so beautifully written, because that's what it's about. It's about relationship, really. And your language of love between you and your mom was food. So it totally comes across in your book. And that's what's so beautiful. But I was going to call you and tell you this, but I'm telling this to you now live on the air. So earlier I was thinking about our show, and I was preparing myself some lunch, and I was cutting up cheese and crackers, because I'm a cheese and cracker freak. And I smelled roses. And I don't have any roses in my house.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I got a strong whiff of roses. And I said, oh, Diana's mom's around.
Aww.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that crazy? That never happens. I mean, it never happens. There was no way that the smell could just come in because there's no roses in my house. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I love that.
I know, right? So I thought of your mom, and I was like, wow, so she's aware of today's show.
Well, and yesterday was my 4-year anniversary of having a live radio show or a podcast of my first podcast, first show, everything.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my God, yes. That's so awesome. All right, so we're going to take a break because I have lots more stuff I want to ask you, and I don't want to get into it right when we're coming up to a break. So let's take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with Diana and talk more about Molé Mama and your amazing podcast and everything that you're doing. I want to ask about some of your podcast guests too, because I'm really curious about some of the really cool people you've had on. So stay tuned, guys, and Diana and I will be back in a few minutes.
My new book, Molé Mama, A Memoir of Love, Cooking, and Loss, is a story of my beautiful mother, Rose. Her family was from Mexico, and she taught me how to make amazing Mexican dishes like enchiladas and Spanish rice and mole and crunchy tacos and guacamole and all different types of salsas. The story focuses on the last 13 months of her life, where she helped me perfect her recipes that had never been written down, while she taste tested from her hospital bed and I cooked for her from the kitchen. It was the last part of our story together, but there is joy in the story, there is love, and I hope that it consoles you, it helps you connect and remember those that you love. Squeeze them a little harder, keep them a little closer. But oh, the stories of food, and there's even recipes. I hope you decide to check out my new book. Go to Amazon.com and search for Molé Mama, a memoir of love, cooking, and loss. Que Dios te bendiga. May God bless you.
Welcome back. So if you've been listening to the first half of the show, you know I have Diana Silva head on from Molé Mama, and we're talking about Molé Mama today, and we're talking about cooking with love and her book and her podcast and all the really cool things that she's doing. So again, thank you so much, Diana, for being here. I so appreciate it. So tell us about some of the really interesting guests that you're finding for your podcast. I mean, you're finding some really cool people who are doing some amazingly creative things.
Yeah, it's so hard to limit how I can talk about, because I mean, these, like I said earlier, a lot of these women, I do want to talk about Alicia Delicias. If you haven't ever followed her on Instagram, you need to do that. She does cookie art. She's been on Cake Wars. Her and her partner, Little Honey's Cakery, they won Cake Wars, and they came in second for the championship. And this woman is amazing. She's an amazing artist, but she's also just been such a big supporter of mine. Almost every single guest that I have ever interviewed since I went to my podcast platform came somehow from Alicia Delicias. She's like my ground zero, because she's connected me to somebody who's connected me. So she's just an amazing human, and somebody that, I show pictures, or when I share Instagram with people I've just met, they're like, those are cookies? So it's like, yes, they're cookies. They're so cool. And, I already mentioned Little Honey's, but Little Honey's Cakery, she also won Cake Wars, with Alicia, and she makes cakes that are just incredibly beautiful. And what's remarkable about both of these women, they have not gone to culinary school. They are self-taught.
I love that.
Right? It's like, so some of my guests are, culinary trained, which is awesome, but I'm meeting these women who are like, they are themselves have had a family member that taught them how to cook, or they're going to YouTube and learn, watching videos, and they know how to paint, or they know how to sculpt. And so they're taking those skills and moving them over to food, but they're just amazing. And as I mentioned on the first half of the show, my goal of talking to people in other countries, and right now it's Africa, it's India, the pepper cook who's amazing. And I've talked to some guests in Mexico, and just trying to pull all these different cultures together. And one of the things that I'm really excited about in 2020 is that I have been asked by La Cocina, which is a incubator for immigrant women in San Francisco, for food. And so they have all these businesses that they help, to just get started and to go and to blossom. And I was invited to start interviewing their chefs. So I've had 2 already that I've recorded in 2020, and I'll be interviewing more. So super excited to have, starting to talk to those women. And most recently I was asked to record somebody in their green room. It's a pretty hot comedian right now, so I'm kind of scared to death of this one.
That's gonna be awesome. That's so cool. Well, what I love is my cousin actually, and we need to talk off air. My cousin is a sommelier, and she just was here for the weekend, and I was telling her about your podcast, and we were talking about passion, and she is so passionate about wine that it just seeps out of her when she talks about it. Her face lights up. It's like when you talk about these other chefs and your cooking and what you're doing, you're so passionate about it and it lights you up. And that's really what is so cool about why all these things are coming to you, because that's the energy frequency that you're at when you're doing your thing. So it's attracting more people to you, right? And it's giving you and it's bringing you so much joy. And Diana, when she made her first postcard, she was like, "Oh, I'm not an artist," but you are. Your palette is just your ingredients for your food. That's where your creativity shines. It's food. It's just not in painting.
Yeah, that postcard, it looks like it looks like a floating island with colors around it. I don't know. Just, like a 3-year-old drew it. Oh, anyway.
I mean, I just took the peppers, and then there's the cake that you made, and it's not edited. It's just simple, and it's just so beautiful. And then your photos I have to say, have gotten really good, because I see what your photos you've been doing of your own recipes, and I'm very proud of you. I have to tell you that.
That's because I have Melisa Caprio in my head now, because you gave me such great training when you were here. And I'm just like, okay, I'm supposed to do this. It should be outside. It should be this time of day if it's outside. And, oh, yeah, okay. So,
and it makes a difference, right? It really does. It makes such a difference. Mm-hmm. But that's what I love about, we don't live in a world anymore where you go to school, you study what you study in college, and that's what you do, and you get retirement, and you get a pension, and you do that for the rest of your life. That's not the world that we're in. So we're all, especially women, we're inventing ourselves and reinventing ourselves and creating our own dynasties, right? Creating our own movements. And it's so cool that you're doing that in something that you love with Molé Mama, and how much that inspires you. And look at all the cool people that you're meeting because of what you're doing.
Oh, it's amazing. I agree with you. It's the women just in the last year that I've talked to. Oh my goodness. It's so fun. It's just so incredibly fun. They're so inspiring. And so many of them are willing to be really vulnerable and transparent about their failings and, getting back up, and because that's real life. So, it's really lovely.
Cool. And you have to share. Okay, so Diana has a chef's kitchen. No, literally. She has a chef's kitchen. And when you bought this house, how long have you been in your house now? A year? A year and a half?
Mm-hmm.
A year. Okay, so just tell everybody quickly how quickly you manifested this house with the dream kitchen. Because this is what you needed. This is what you wanted, right? It happened so fast. So you just have to share, because it helps your business too. It's so amazing because you could do all your videos in your own kitchen. You don't need to rent out a place. You don't need to go to a studio. You could do it all right from your home. It's amazing.
Yes. So my husband and I were living in Northern California, and we had been there for a long time, and we decided to sell our house and to move to San Diego because we have family here, and it's just where we wanted to get back to. We love the beach. And I literally ran into my hairdresser, told him that we were going to sell our house. And 2 days later, I had somebody look at the house, a couple that gave us an offer and bought it as is, and we were done. It was literally that fast. Mm. And, we then came and started looking at houses, and we walked into the house that we bought, and it was by accident. We weren't supposed to see this house, but anyway, we did. That's another story. But when we walked in, my husband went out to the backyard because it has an amazing, beautiful backyard. And I walked straight to the kitchen, and I saw the Wolf stove that has 6 burners, two ovens below it. Like the big oven is big enough for me to do 72 cupcakes at one time, and a griddle. And I was like, oh my God, I must have this house because of the kitchen. So I didn't even care. Hadn't gone upstairs, hadn't gone anywhere. It was just like, I must have this kitchen. And it has a huge chef's sink and a huge island that easily sits 7. We put as many as 15 people on it before we do both sides. So it's just, I'm so blessed. I love my kitchen so much. And I named my stove because I love her so much. So
I know.
My stove's name is Magda after my grandma, Magdalena. So
I love it. I know, Magda. She really worked the week I was there, I have to say. And she was good. Diana was even sweating at one point. She's like, oh my God.
It was so hot.
I'm like, now you know how I feel all the time. Oh, and the windows were open. It was just so beautiful. And here's the craziest thing. So she manifests this house. She tells me about the story. And then when I'm out there, we're talking. And I mean, the people that lived there before redid their house. And unfortunately, because of their own personal situation, they couldn't stay in the house. So the kitchen was made for you. It wasn't even used by the previous owners.
No, it wasn't.
Isn't that crazy? It's like that's how all this stuff works.
Yeah, and I've told you this, Melissa, I've told others. It's like I could not have come up with this like house plan or this kitchen or my backyard if I would have sat down with somebody. Like it wouldn't have been this nice. Like I would have never dreamed up the things that it has. And I love fountains and I love St. Francis, and like looking out my kitchen window, like when you're standing at my sink, I actually have like a grotto. I have a fountain. So it's just like, I have a fountain. I have a large pantry that's backlit. Like it's ridiculous. It's just amazing.
Yeah. It's beautiful. And there's going to be lots of photos in front of that grotto outside when you see her cookbook. I used that little space quite a lot. Yeah. It was great. And it's just that I like to tell those kind of points of a story because people, a lot of times when I talk about what I talk about, people just are like, oh, there she is. She's all woo-woo. Like, what the hell is she talking about? Sure, right? Let's just be positive. And it's not just about being positive. It's more about living in your passion and your joy and your the energy that you put out. So everything matches. So when you have these strong desires and you shoot them out, and your vibration is really high because you're joyful in what you're doing, it has to come to you. Things have to just be magnetized back to you. And that's what happened with you with the house. And so I like to share those kind of stories because it makes people go into their own lives and think, well, where have I done that in the past? Have I ever done that? And unfortunately, we're usually doing it with the stuff we don't want, right?
Exactly.
Because we're focused on worry and we're stressed out. And I was just talking to a very good friend of mine this morning, and she's going through a divorce, and now they're getting into it, the back and forth, and she's super frustrated. And I just told her, I said, that you hired attorneys to deal with all that. Don't worry about it. Focus on the goal. What's the goal? What's the goal? Keep visualizing that you're getting what's fair and what's right, and just keep putting yourself there. Don't focus on, because if she keeps focusing on all the bad stuff about it, then that's what she's going to keep attracting more of that. Right?
Absolutely. And, one of the things I forgot to mention about this house was that my husband and I created a spreadsheet of all the things that we wanted in our forever house. And we had tiers, like these are our must-haves, these are nice-to-haves, and these are these would be great. And the house that we ended up with, it has all of them.
Wow. See?
It has and we didn't expect that. We were going to compromise, or we weren't going to compromise on those must-haves. And we thought those other things, those would be nice things that we both agreed. Mm-hmm. But, that's what you're talking about, is when you get that clear on what you want, whether you even really believe it or not, it will come to you. It's just yeah, we didn't really believe that we'd get all of that stuff. But I haven't talked about our backyard, but our backyard has a pool and a jacuzzi and beautiful trees and an area for a garden. And so my husband's been gardening, and we have an avocado tree. So, and I am like an avocado goddess. So like for me to end up with a house that actually has a tree, last year we just in one of our harvests, we got 50 avocados. It's just amazing.
Yeah. No, it really is. And you got what you wanted. And it's also the perfect place for you to take Molé Mama to the next level, because you want this to be your vision for it. Is it for it to really travel all over, for a lot of people to know what you're doing and who you are, and meeting new people and having other people who are chefs and all about cooking with passion and love. So you want it to grow. That's your goal, your big goal. I know that.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, of course. So you're in the perfect place for it.
I am.
So it's all building. It's so cool. So yeah, so you also have a YouTube channel. So tell people a little bit about your YouTube channel, because you offer videos to teach us how to make some of these amazing things that are going to be in your second book, and the things that you talk about on your podcast, the foods and stuff that you share with everyone.
Yeah, so my YouTube videos are, like Melissa said, they're just different recipes that we have. And also I have some guest chefs. So I have my Tia Trini making homemade flour tortillas, and I have a woman that's from Hawaii, and she makes Russian food. And my goal is definitely to have more guest chefs actually cooking their favorite family recipes. And I haven't shot any new videos for about a year because of our move, and just get it kind of grounded and finding new video people and all that kind of thing. So I'm going to be returning to that very, very soon in my new kitchen. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty excited because our crunchy tacos video is really close to hitting 100,000 views. And I think we're over 1 million minutes viewed on the channel.
Great. Congratulations on that. That's incredible. And her crunchy tacos are off the charts. Really. And your salsa and your guacamole and your queso. I think I ate queso for 3 days for breakfast. It was so good. Oh my God. Please, I wish you were close. I would be like, Diana, I'm coming over to eat at your house tonight. Just talking about it is making me dream of it.
Well, one of the things I wanted to add, this has been such a fun journey, and I've gotten to meet amazing people like you, Melissa, and it's been so many blessings. But for me, some of the greatest joy I've had is when people actually make those recipes and they send me pictures of my mama's recipes in their kitchens. And I know Renee's in the chat room, and she has done that more than once. And so is our friend Terry and others. And to me, that is like, to see that food that I grew up with in other people's kitchens, and then to also hear how much they loved it. It's like, in a way, for me, my mama lives on because she's in other people's kitchens.
Yeah, I understand that. I feel the same way when somebody tells me like there's something that they put on their postcard came true. Like I get like so excited for them, or I'll get a note like, I have to talk to Terry later because she goes, I manifested a trip to Italy. I'm like, oh my God, I'm recording with Diana. I'm calling you tonight. I can't wait to hear what that's about. I just love it. I get so excited because it just, when you see other people, something that you are doing, inspiring somebody else and sharing it back with you, that's what it's all about. I mean, that's really the goal. I mean, yes, of course, we want to be successful. Of course, we want to do, make a living doing what we love. But it's more than that. It's about sharing the experience with other people.
It is, absolutely. And really recently, I had a young woman that reached out to me on my YouTube channel and my crunchy videos, or the crunchy taco video, excuse me. And she had made them for her family and shot a video. And she has some, she's on the spectrum, and she looked so incredibly proud and happy that she was able to cook for her family. And I was bawling when I watched her video.
Oh, how sweet.
Isn't that sweet? It was just, it's like, because so many people can cook. We can cook. It's something I think almost all of us can learn how to do. It's just whether we want to or not. And so if we want to, I think we can. So I was just like, I know my mama is just so happy that, she helped. Something that she loved to make for us is being made by this sweet girl.
Oh, definitely. And she's here right now listening. I'm telling you, it was crazy earlier. That doesn't happen to me very often. And I got I go, oh, I smell roses. And then I went, oh, rose. Okay.
Yeah.
Diana's on today. So that's really, really cool. I love that. And I think that if you guys, so I got to experience watching Diana cook. And so she puts her music on. The windows are all open. California has beautiful weather, so you can do that there. So the windows are all open, and she just gets into her groove. It's like she's in it, chopping and washing and cutting and measuring and putting, and she's got beautiful cutlery and great pans and pots. It's like a whole thing. It's like watching, it's like watching a painter when they're painting, and they're into their oil paints. Like, you get so into it. You're in your own zone. It's really cool.
Well, and you can tell people what music I listen to because you're surprised.
Oh my God. I was like, what are you playing?
You can tell. You tell listeners I'm cool.
You kind of did a little variety, but I was like, some of that hip hop that you were listening to, and I was just like, oh my God, I was not expecting this.
Come on, I have Latin genes.
Yeah, I know. It's so cute with her Molé Mama apron on, and she's like good to go. And what you're doing is that's why your frequency is so high in those moments. You know what I mean? That's when you're vibrating really high because you're in your joy, you're in your happy place.
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
Yes. Well, and it was and having you in my home, and it was just such a blessing to have you here. We had so much fun. Oh my God.
We did. We had a really good time. And I can't stop talking about your food to everybody when I talk about Mexican food. So really quick, we're talking all about good things, and I want to keep it on the good things, but what's been like the biggest challenge that you've kind of faced doing Molé Mama for you?
So the biggest one is just all the self-doubt. Like, does anybody care? Why does anybody care? Is anybody going to connect to this? All those voices in my head, Melissa, those doubt monsters that come in, and, and just sometimes letting it bring me down and take away some of my motivation, and just going, it's hard. It's really tough.
Yeah. Yeah, I have that sometimes too. I think everybody does. Like, why am I doing this? Is this even worth it? And then, you feel like, does anybody even care what I'm doing? But people do, as you know, right? They do. Yes. Look at who you're meeting, and everybody gets super excited. Oh my God, I can't believe we're like at the end. So tell everybody the best way to find you. I've posted all your, I know you can find you on Facebook and stuff, but the best way that you like for people to connect with you.
Just come on over to molemama.com, MOLEMAMA.com, and it'll connect you to everything that I'm doing and keep you up to date. And Melissa, thank you so much. It was such a blessing to be here with you and your listeners.
Thank you. And thank you for having me on your podcast in December. We were talking about my book, so I really appreciate it. You guys go over and listen to some of the podcasts and watch her videos and learn to cook her. You can make her crunch tacos or learn to make her guacamole. Oh my God, her guacamole is like unbelievably ridiculous. It's addicting. It's addicting with the chips. It really is. Well, I love you, and I'm so glad we became friends, and you're so special to me, and I just want to thank you so much for everything. I love you.
I love you too, honey. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to Postcards to the Universe with Melissa here on 1-2 Radio, where we are changing the way we manifest in the world. And I'm wishing everyone a wonderful week. I'll see you guys next week. Ciao.